Last month, when I announced the National Security Division's new strategy for countering nation-state threats, I said that our approach would be driven by the gravest threats, including the alarming rise in transnational repression. This is an example of what I meant. Authoritarian states around the world feel emboldened to reach beyond their borders, to intimidate or exact reprisals against individuals who dare to speak out against oppression and corruption. For example, the Department of Justice has recently brought cases against individuals involved in Belarus's forced diversion of a commercial flight to arrest and detain a Belarusian journalist and dissident. We've pursued those who participated in Iranian plots, targeting dissidents living here, including one conspiracy to kidnap an American Iranian activist in New York. We've prosecuted agents of Russia and Egypt for illegally surveilling and targeting dissidents of those authoritarian regimes, and we've exposed attempts by the PRC and Saudi Arabia to deploy agents inside technology companies to obtain private information on critics and to impede the exercise of free speech. Today, we add 3 more cases to this list.
Okay, so check it out. On that note, we're going to come right here. This is from the Office of the Human Rights Council. These are electronic harassment techniques. These include 1, surveillance, being followed, electronic surveillance, computer and phone hacking, monitoring all online activities, and bugging of home. 2, profiles are built to identify any and all weaknesses and insecurities to be used later, information often obtained through sexual partners or trusted people in their lives. 3, conditioning, where victims are sensitized to certain stimuli, such as everywhere you go, someone will cough as they walk past you. The goal is to make you self-police and then think anyone who coughed is involved in the harassment. People report of conditioning to include hand gestures and overt use of color and people's clothing, like everyone you see wearing red, or cars a certain color, or with headlights, also known as brighting. Anchoring, this is number 4, where someone will provide false rationales for the harassment. Often, many possible rationales are planted to keep the victim confused, and the focus of the harassment cycles from one possible reason to another, round and around, so as to keep the victim guessing in self-perpetuating guessing game where every scenario you are to blame and causes self-doubt, fear, intimidation, and ultimately a cycle of destructive thoughts. 5, mobbing or true gang stalking, where everywhere you go you will see an overt display of people following you and often use words you have been conditioned to or your name to draw your attention. 6, street theater, where a group will perform an overt activity like a fake confrontation or scenarios designed to test your reaction. Often takes the form of a couple who position themselves near you and then have a conversation using many of your conditioned words or pertaining to your particular situation and sensitivities. 7, the use of directional speakers, which have the ability to direct sound to a single individual in a crowded room. The particular item is ultimately the most used and is often referred to as V2K or voice to skull, and is extensively in the psychological breakdown of the victim. The use initially is to cause the victim to doubt their sanity and to drive them into the world or into the mental health system, and later to just torment and never give the victim a moment of privacy or peace. If they do enter the mental health system, then harassment escalates dramatically as the victim has now been discredited and can be labeled as someone with mental health problem if they do speak about the harassment. 8, the use of electronics to affect your eyesight and balance, which was originally developed for the military and police crowd control, called dazzling, and even the ability to make you vomit. 9, sound campaigns, which is a community harassment technique where abnormal levels of sound are directed at the victim and their home. This includes cars deliberately braking or accelerating when they pass people, talking excessively loud at all hours of the night, amplification of sound using directional speakers so that external sounds that previously couldn't be heard now can, garbage truck and other heavy vehicles, and countless other deliberate tactics. 10. Sleep deprivation. This is perhaps one of the most insidious tactics used, where victims are woken multiple times a night and can be kept awake for days at a time. The effects are dramatic and completely debilitating, affecting concentration, mood, irritability, appearance, and significantly impacts all areas of life, job performance, relationships, and significantly aids in discrediting the victim as they appear unorganized, disheveled, and sleeping patterns alter so they may sleep during the day, where noise campaigns are more effective, and be awake at night, where they can be painted as the one making noise and being disruptive members of the community. 11. Baiting or entrapment, where victims are harassed to the point that they lash and commit a crime such as assault, break, enter, or vandalism. As they try and locate the source of the harassment, harassers will actively try to provoke verbal and physical confrontations, especially after a period of sleep deprivation. Or they are prompted into an activity which then can be used as leverage, such as affairs, sexuality, drug use, or other criminal activity. 12. Gaslighting, which is a form of psychological abuse where someone will actively try undermine victims and to make them doubt themselves so that they will lose all self-confidence and self-esteem and are therefore easier to manipulate and push toward the mental health pathway. It can be as simple as being told something which they then deny, then telling them how silly they are for thinking they said it, and turn the lie around into an attack on the person. It can be incredibly effective coming from a trusted person and before the victim understands what is happening to them. 13. Black bag jobs is a term when a harasser breaks into a victim's property and places something or deliberately moves something. The purpose is to cause self-doubt and fear that their property is being accessed, and harassers try then to sell as paranoia. I have had this happen to me before. The reason I'm speaking on this is because every attempt that I have tried to move forward in my life, and I'm very smart, okay? It's like I'm blocked. Like, I have had people in relationships actually break into my home and then place a chair that I had made right by the door, like it was jammed up against the door. All the windows were locked. The back door was locked. Like, what the fuck is that? What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Nothing was stolen. It was weird. Anyway, then you have 14, which is propaganda and disinformation is also the other key element to suppress knowledge of this practice, as its effectiveness initially requires the victim to be unaware of the existence of gang stalking, gaslighting, or electronic technologies such as discretional speakers. So huge amounts of time are devoted online to creating disinformation sites, which attempt to discredit victims by pushing the mental health agenda. They achieve this by posing as victims and actively trying to sound crazy so that all victims are treated as such. Also by creating websites claiming to help victims and being a resource for victims to come together, and then harassing them to the extent that they lose hope and no longer reach out for help, causing further isolation. 15. Further to the above, gang stalkers rely on disbelief and discrediting as much of the harassment is designed, at least initially, to mimic mental health issues. They also rely on their abuse being so extreme, so pervasive, so fundamentally immoral as to be disbelieved, and victims subsequently resort to photographing, videotaping, and sound recording their everyday encounters to disprove the countless unfounded claims made against them, especially in relation to gaslighting, which gang stalkers try to turn around and paint the victim as paranoid or irrational. Victims are made to feel helpless at every attempt to defend themselves is used against them, and when they seek help, they are met with disbelief or open hostility. Our phones are the main source of where this harassment is coming from. Like I said, if the United States is been going against its people by poisoning us through our food, through our water, do you know that everything in our water, go and look it up, everything in our water is poisonous, it's carcinogenic, everything in it. Why? You know? And it's to keep us down, to keep us from speaking, to keep us from actually seeing what position we really hold here and the power that we really have together. Like I said, these things for people who are speaking out against this, try and check this list and see if any of these have happened to you or somebody you know. You're not crazy, and if you're expressing yourself or if you're looking into things, you're most likely being suppressed and oppressed. So I hope this information helps. It definitely gave way for me. Share.